In the year 2563, which is 300 years following a catastrophic conflict referred to as the Fall, a doctor named Ito visits a junkyard to find any salvageable parts for his repairs. While there, he discovers a severely damaged cyborg girl whose brain is still functioning. Ito takes her home and, with the assistance of his nurse, gives her a new body. The next day, the cyborg awakens in a girl's room and is thrilled with her new form. After admiring herself in the mirror and dressing, she joins Ito downstairs, where he is tending to his other cyborg patients. Upon awakening, the cyborg girl is greeted by Ito and offered some breakfast. However, when she attempts to eat a piece of fruit, she realizes that she cannot recall how to do so. It quickly becomes apparent that she has no memories from her past life, and Ito is unable to locate any records pertaining to her. The girl subsequently ventures outside to explore Iron City, which is a lower-class area situated beneath Zalem, the last remaining sky city inhabited by the wealthy elite. Following the war, survivors took up residence on Earth, and all labor is devoted to serving Zalem. Nevertheless, entry to the city is strictly prohibited. After bringing the cyborg girl back to his home, Ito decides to give her the name Alita, and extends an invitation for her to remain under his care. One day, Ito takes Alita out with him to run some errands, which includes a motorball match being shown on a large screen, where she befriends a stray dog. While out, Alita discovers a wanted poster offering a reward for the capture of a murderer who has killed 6 women. Suddenly, a gigantic robot emerges onto the street, causing Alita to instinctively adopt a defensive stance. When a massive robot suddenly appears in the middle of the street, a young man named Hugo promptly shoves Alita out of harm's way. Despite Hugo's warnings about the danger of confronting the Centurions, Alita goes back to save a stray dog. Though impressed by her bravery, Hugo cautions her against interfering with the city's guardians. Nonetheless, the two hit it off, but their conversation is interrupted by Ito, who takes Alita back home. Later that evening, a woman is assaulted by the aforementioned murderer while attempting to enter her apartment. Meanwhile, Alita is awakened by a noise and discovers Ito arriving home late, carrying a large suitcase and a bloodstain on his hand. On the following day, Alita starts assisting Ito in caring for his patients and discovers that a man had his cyborg limbs stolen by jackers, who sell them on the black market that funds motorball games. She also learns of another woman who was killed the previous night, which leads her to become increasingly suspicious of Ito and his injured wrist. Following her shift, Alita goes out and unexpectedly encounters Chiron, an enigmatic woman bearing a mark on her forehead. Chiron startles Alita by grabbing her hand, causing the young cyborg to flee in fear. Later, Chiron meets with Ito and reveals that they were once married and that Ito used the cyborg body they had created for their deceased daughter to repair Alita. Chiron expresses her desire to work with Ito again to create a motorball champion that could provide her with a means of ascending to Zalem, but Ito declines, refusing to build monstrosities. Chiron departs, and Ito observes her climbing into a vehicle alongside Vector, the man responsible for the factory. In the meantime, Alita encounters Hugo, who is playing motorball with Tanji and some other acquaintances. Hugo agrees to teach her the sport and lends her a pair of roller skates, forcing Alita to adjust to the new mode of movement. Although she stumbles and falls initially, she quickly adapts and scores an impressive number of points. Once the game ends, Hugo introduces Alita to the taste of chocolate for the first time, and they unexpectedly encounter Zapan, a hunter warrior who wields a sword since firearms are prohibited within Iron City. During the succeeding days, Alita continues to assist Ito during the morning and spend time with Hugo in the afternoon. Hugo takes her to a tall building to witness the beauty of Zalem and expresses his desire to ascend to the city someday. Additionally, he reveals that the scrapyard is overflowing with waste from Zalem, leading Alita to conclude that she originally hails from the Sky City if Ito discovered her there. In the evening, Alita pretends to go to sleep and tracks Ito after he departs. She discovers him following a woman named Nishiana into a dim alley and withdrawing a scythe-shaped weapon from his suitcase. Believing that Ito intends to harm Nishiana, Alita interferes and inadvertently reveals their location. However, it turns out that Ito is actually a hunter-warrior who pursues criminals for their bounties. This was a trap orchestrated by Gruishka, and Nishiana and Romo are his accomplices, both equipped with advanced cyborg parts. Ito engages Romo in combat and manages to disarm him, but Romo teams up with Nishiana and overpowers Ito. Alita jumps in to assist and effortlessly defeats Romo, displaying an impressive level of skill and agility. Despite Grishka's interference, Alita manages to take down Nishiana as well. Gruishka is taken aback by Alita's combat prowess and decides to confront her. As Alita prepares to strike with a unique kick, a flashback suddenly floods her mind. She envisions herself donning special armor and fighting fiercely on the moon, with a woman called Gelda addressing her as 99. In the present, Alita executes the kick and dismembers Gruishka's arm before attacking him with Ito's scythe. Gruishka flees through a hole in the ground to escape. Afterwards, Ito delivers Nishiana to the hunter-warrior headquarters to collect the bounty, enabling him to maintain his clinic and aid the needy. Alita confides in Ito about her sudden recollection and demands further clarification. Ito brings her back to his home and discloses that he constructed the body for his daughter, also named Alita, who was confined to a wheelchair. Tragically, a drug-addicted patient visited the clinic seeking an upper before a motorball match and murdered Alita after failing to acquire any medication. Chirin, Alita's mother, could not cope with the loss and departed. Ito, seeking vengeance, hunted down and killed the perpetrator. This experience ignited Ito's hunter-warrior career, as he recognized his talent for combat. Ito offers Alita the body he constructed, but retains her original brain and core, which is fueled by an antimatter microreactor. This indicates that Alita possesses the ability to power an entire city by herself, utilizing technology that has not been developed since before the fall, making her over 3 centuries old. In the meantime, Gruishka returns to Chirin and informs her about Alita's combat skills. Chirin agrees to repair him, and Vector arrives for an interrogation. However, Gruishka undergoes a sudden shift in personality. It is later revealed that Nova, the supreme leader of Zalem, can communicate with individuals on Earth by hacking into any cyborg he desires. Nova reveals that Alita possesses knowledge of the Panzerkunst fighting style, prompting him to order Chirin to rebuild Gruishka and send him to eliminate Alita. Nova then manipulates Vector and proposes an offer to Chirin. If she agrees to work for him, he will transport her to Zalem. Later, Ito examines the bounty list and realizes that Gruishka is not on it, indicating that someone is shielding him. Alita expresses a desire to become a hunter-warrior, but Ito forbids it. Angered by his decision, Alita runs away and encounters Hugo, who brings her to a motorball game. Hugo utilizes his connections to give Alita a behind-the-scenes look after witnessing the intense competition among the players. He reveals that becoming a motorball champion is rewarded with a trip to Zalem. Alita becomes aware of Chirin and Vector's presence, as they create cyborgs exclusively for motorball. The current leader in the competition is not affiliated with them, prompting Chirin to request Vector to obtain his parts. Shortly after, the champion is ambushed by a gang of jackers and enclosed in a circle of flames while celebrating his triumph. After seizing the champion, the jackers confiscate his arms and sell them to Vector on Chirin's behalf. The jackers are later revealed to be Hugo and his associates, who perform these actions for monetary gain. Vector instructs them to deliver the arms while he eliminates the remaining parts of the champion. The following day, Hugo and his companions bring Alita to witness the stunning natural scenery beyond the city limits. They visit a lake containing a warship that crashed during the conflict. Although scrappers have scavenged some parts, most of the vessel remains untouched due to its origins as a technology developed by the United Republics of Mars, Alita's former enemies. Hugo believes that exploring the sunken warship may aid Alita in regaining her memories. Without any qualms, Alita submerges herself in the lake, where she discovers that she can breathe underwater. She walks along the bottom of the lake and penetrates the vessel, where she gains access to a peculiar door that leads her to an enigmatic force field. Intuitively understanding the situation, Alita operates the control panel and deactivates the shield, revealing an advanced armored body that she takes with her. Upon returning home, Alita implores Ito to give her the body, as she feels a deep connection to it, but he declines her request. Ito enlightens Alita on the armored body, which is a berserker, a weaponized cyborg that specializes in Panzerkunst techniques. The ship responded to Alita's core because she was also designed as a weapon. Ito fears that if Alita becomes a weapon again, she may lose the chance to lead a normal life. Nonetheless, Alita disregards Ito's concerns and enrolls as a hunter-warrior at the headquarters. She then persuades Hugo to take her to the bar frequented by the hunter-warriors. The dog that Alita encountered earlier tags along with them. At the bar, Zapan taunts Alita for being a young girl and introduces her to the other powerful warriors, including McTeague and his group of cyborg hounds. Alita disregards Zapan's mockery and engages in conversation with the patrons at the bar, proposing that they collaborate to hunt Gruishka and overpower his protectors. However, The idea is met with ridicule, and Zapan taunts Alita for her suggestion. Alita responds by insulting him, which provokes Zapan into attacking her. Nevertheless, Alita quickly overpowers him. Frustrated with the group's cowardice, Alita challenges them to a deal. If she defeats them all, they must agree to work together. A bar fight immediately erupts, and despite Hugo's assistance, Alita emerges victorious with ease, leaving an amused McTeague to observe her triumph. Ito arrives and intervenes, threatening to charge everyone for the damages. He then reprimands Alita for her actions. However, Grushka appears and kills a man to display his upgraded abilities. Grushka demands Alita's presence, but the dog attempts to defend her and is consequently killed by Grushka. Enraged by the dog's death, Alita uses its blood to paint warrior marks on her face and confronts Grushka in combat. Ito wants to help, but Hugo pushes him away to allow Alita to fight alone. Grushka creates a hole in the ground, and the two engage in combat within the ruins of the old world. Despite sustaining an injury to her leg, Alita puts up an impressive fight against Grushka, who reveals that they were both created by Nova. However, the next time Grushka attacks, Alita is unable to avoid it and suffers extensive damage to her body. A memory of Gelda's teachings comes to her mind, urging her to persevere and defeat Nova. Motivated by these words, Alita manages to strike Grushka with a powerful blow using her remaining arm, propelling her body upward and punching through his eye socket. After the intense battle with Grushka, Ito and Hugo join the fight, while McTeague's cyborg hounds scare Grushka away in revenge for their fallen comrade. Ito takes Alita's damaged body home and repairs her using the powerful berserker body, which quickly adapts to her. The next day, Alita discovers that she now has the ability to create plasma with her fingers and feels stronger than ever. Later, she meets with Hugo and reveals that the nanotechnology has greatly enhanced her sense of touch. Hugo helps Alita to experience the sensation of human touch by caressing her arms and face, which leads to the two of them sharing a kiss. Meanwhile, Grushka is furious over his defeat, and Nova takes control of Vector's body to reprimand him and remind him of his mission. After Nova departs, Vector realizes he cannot rely on Grushka for such an important task and decides to meet with Hugo to gather information about Alita by getting him drunk. The next day, Alita discovers that Hugo is suffering from a hangover in his apartment. In Hugo's apartment, they discuss his aspiration of reaching Zalem, and Alita offers to give him the money she earns from bounties so he can purchase a ticket from Vector. However, Hugo is reluctant to put Alita in danger again. Alita expresses her devotion to Hugo and reveals that she would do anything for him, even giving him her heart, which she takes out of her chest as proof. However, Hugo declines the offer and informs her that Vector wants her to play motorball. Alita agrees to participate if Hugo becomes her coach, as winning the game would enable them to travel to Zalem together. From a distance, Zapan observes the events unfolding between Alita and Hugo. On the night of Alita's major motorball match, Ito provides her with extra protection and custom-made skate feet. Alita selects the number 99 in honor of her past memories. Meanwhile, Vector offers a large sum of money to the other players as a reward for killing Alita during the match. On the streets, Hugo encounters Tanji and others scavenging parts from a cyborg. Hugo expresses his desire to leave this lifestyle, which prompts a physical altercation between him and Tanji. Suddenly, Zapan arrives on the scene and kills the cyborg, making it appear as though the jackers were responsible. Zapan then attacks Hugo, injuring him in the shoulder. Tanji attempts to save Hugo from Zapan, but Zapan easily slays him with his sword. Hugo takes the opportunity to distract Zapan with a Molotov bomb and escapes, but Zapan relentlessly pursues him. Meanwhile, at the stadium, Vector informs Chiron that he convinced Hugo to bring Alita to them by offering to take him to Zalem. Ito realizes that Alita's opponents are not regular motorball players. They are all bounty markers or hunter warriors, indicating that this is a trap. Ito attempts to contact Alita via her communication system to warn her, but Alita decides to stay and fight. Although these individuals put up a fight, Alita proves to be vastly more skilled and defeats them without much difficulty. Suddenly, Hugo contacts Alita and requests her assistance in defeating Zapan. Alita promptly exits the arena by jumping through the large screen and is trailed by the other players. With more space to maneuver, Alita easily overpowers her opponents and heads towards Hugo, who is in danger of being killed by Zapan. Alita intervenes and pushes Zapan aside, but the bounty screens suddenly display that Hugo is a murder suspect. Upon questioning, Hugo confesses to being a jacker, but he clarifies that he only stole parts and did not commit murder. Zapan reminds Alita of the Hunter's Code, but Alita cannot bring herself to harm her beloved, so Zapan stabs Hugo instead. A Centurion arrives to claim Hugo's body, but Alita picks him up and flees. They find a hidden spot, where Hugo swears he never killed anyone and quit his job for Alita. They share a kiss and declare their love for each other. Chiron observes this from a distance, and is moved by their relationship. When Vector contacts her, she informs him that she has lost track of Alita and Hugo. Chiron offers her assistance to help save Hugo's life. Shortly after, Alita emerges with Hugo's head cradled in her arms. The Centurion interprets this as Alita completing the bounty, but Zapan examines the situation more closely and realizes that Chiron has connected Hugo's brain to Alita's core. Enraged, Zapan attempts to attack Alita, but engaging in combat with other hunters is against the code, and as a result, the Centurion deems Zapan a criminal. This enables Alita to destroy Zapan's face and claim his sword. After several hours, Ito has managed to construct a new body for Hugo, although it is rather basic in design. He informs Alita that Vector's promises were nothing but lies, and the only way to reach Zalem is by becoming the champion of the motorball. Ito and Chiron hail from Zalem, but they were exiled to the ground by Nova after he discovered that their daughter was flawed. Ito removed his Zalem mark from his forehead to renounce his previous life. Meanwhile, Vector confronts Chiron for allowing Alita to escape. Chiron discloses that Alita reminded her of her duties as a physician and a mother, and she now desires to quit her affiliation with Zalem since it holds no importance for her anymore. In an effort to retrieve Chiron, Vector dispatches a guard to pursue her. Alita, fueled by her desire for vengeance for Hugo's death, heads to the Hunter Warriors' headquarters located in the cyborg factory building. Using Zapan's sword, she obliterates the Centurions and the bounty system before storming into Vector's office. There, she discovers that Vector has taken Chiron's body parts with the intention of selling them. Alita is so preoccupied by this discovery that she fails to notice the arrival of Gruishka, who attacks her and injures her hip, triggering yet another flashback. During the war, Alita, Gelda, and their team attempted to scale the cargo tubes to reach Zalem. However, the cargo tube's serrated defense ring appeared and killed the entire army, except for Alita and Gelda. The ring then broke the tube in two. Alita barely clung onto the edge, and with Gelda's assistance, she managed to climb back up. Gelda reminded Alita of their mission to destroy Zalem, inspiring Alita to remember that her body can heal itself. Drawing inspiration from Gelda's words, Alita defeats Gruishka with just a few swift moves. Following this, Alita insists on speaking to Nova, and the ruler possesses Vector's body to answer her. He warns Alita that he has access to everything and threatens to harm Ito and Hugo, which infuriates Alita and prompts her to silence Vector by killing him. At that instant, Ito contacts Alita to notify her that Hugo has fled due to being pursued by Centurions. Alita sets out to find her partner and discovers him scaling the tube in pursuit of his aspirations. Despite Alita's efforts to explain that Nova is using him to reach her, Hugo refuses to listen, and Nova takes advantage of the situation by dropping a serrated ring on them. Although Alita manages to evade it, Hugo is hit and sustains severe injuries. In a desperate attempt to save him, Alita catches hold of his hand, but his arm gradually disintegrates, and despite their final moment of love, Hugo falls to his death. Several months later, Alita has risen to become a motorball sensation. During a match, she raises her sword and points it towards Zalem as a symbol of her determination to become the champion and seek revenge against Nova.